No.
Okay.
I didn't know we had candy access on non-official.
Well,
Just candy access.
Did it get started? Great. Good evening. It is Monday, July 6th, 2026, and this is a safety committee meeting. It is 5:30 p.m. and the discussion tonight is use of electric bikes, scooters, etc. in the city of Sylvania. At the meeting this evening, myself, Mary Westfall, chair of the committee, and other committee members, safety committee members, Marcus Hanson, Brian McCann, and Lindsay Stow. Also from City Council, Sean Murphy, Brian McCann, Patrick Richardson, and I do expect that Doug Hanum will be joining us at some point in the meeting. From administration, we have Mayor Fry, Leslie Brining, Chief Miller, Claudia Witkowski, and Joe Shaw, and we do have a few guests in the audience today. I know that in advance, all council members received a lot of information from the chief. I want to thank you for your effort. It was obviously a big task. I believe when I glanced through things looking for dates, I found a date of 2005 as when these were last reviewed or prepared or amended in any way. We know that things have changed dramatically in our community and all communities with electric vehicles and such things. So originally we thought we would have a discussion that would be very robust and maybe end with moving to legislation. But as we began to look at all of this, tonight's meeting will be solely focused on a discussion of information and question and answer. My goal is to keep it to a maximum of 1 hour. We do have a few guests in the audience that I think would like to make some remarks. I've let them know that we would invite them to make remarks toward the end of the meeting. So with that, I'm going to let Chief Miller start off and get us moving in the right direction on this topic.
Thank you. Like she said, a lot of this that I want to be is informational because I realize there's a lot of information out there. I've read up on our ordinances. I've started researching what other area cities are doing and how they're looking at these. Everyone seems to be in the same flux. We have a lot of these with no real guidelines as to how they should be used and where they should be used. So to kind of help everyone along, I put together a little PowerPoint for tonight. And the first thing I'm going to start off with is a couple of complaints just to show you what we're getting as a police department. People say, well, I haven't seen anything. We're getting the complaints coming in from us. So this is Dave White's security camera. And if you look at the middle bay door here, there'll be some kids on e-bikes that are kind of circling in front on their approach to the service bays. The employee is going to be walking out, and shortly after she gets out, you will see them come zooming through the bays and right through the parking lot. So obviously, Dave White called us, and one of the juveniles was recognized by one of our officers, so his parent got a knock on the door and some education about what their son was doing and what he shouldn't be doing. Hopefully that solved that issue on that side of town. And another resident sent this to me. This was on Erie Street, right at Main, and the person started recording after the older individual. Oh, it was playing earlier. It's not going to play now. I can send that to you. That was a older individual, and you can see from the still image that he is actually going the wrong direction on that side of the road. He had already run a red light, then he was driving the wrong way on the street. He came over to the correct lane, started driving a weaving pattern, and then shortcutted his turn on Phillips into oncoming traffic. So to say that this is an age problem is incorrect. This is a perception problem by people that are getting on these things and thinking that there is no rules when you're on these. But, you know, am I a pedestrian? am I a motor vehicle? Do I have to obey by the laws of the road? So I think that's kind of what we're seeing. This was a still image captured on Lord's campus. That is more than likely, from what we can tell from the image, it's more like an e-dirt bike. But it's probably, from the way they're sitting on it, not supposed to be carrying two people. And I'm sure the sisters of St. Francis do not want these things on their property. So, the question is, what's a bicycle? It's a pedal-powered vehicle on which you can operate a foot. So what's an e-bike? It's the same thing. It's pedal-powered. A human operator sits on it, but the difference is you've put an electric motor on it that's 750 watts or less. They put these into 3 classes. So you have your 1s and 2s that do not travel greater than 20 miles an hour. And the class 3 can attain up to 28 miles an hour. So what I'm going to show you on these next slides, these are actually pictures I pulled off of the internet. I went to a event to our police bikes occurred. And I was like, show me what a class 1 e-bike looks like. This is a class 1 e-bike. So it provides assistance only when pedaling, no assistance at 20 miles an hour or greater. And it has all these bikes. E-bicycles have to have a label on them telling us they're class 1, 2, or 3 by manufacturer. This is class 2. It provides assistance whether pedaling or not. You have what is a throttle on it, so you can actually just push it down and it accelerates just like the gas pedal on a car. Again, it will not go greater than 20 miles an hour. And then the class 3, this is a class 3, fully operable pedals, just like the other 2, but it provides assistance when the rider is pedaling and no assistance after 28 miles an hour or greater. Now these are the only ones that they have put restrictions on. You must be 16 years old to operate. The operator, regardless of age, must wear a helmet, and it must have a speedometer. So what you notice out of all these is if I were just to walk up or drive by and see this, I cannot tell you if this is a class 1, 2, or 3. There's a little sticker underneath the seat on the frame that will tell you 1, 2, or 3.
Chief, only the class 3 has a speedometer on it, so the class 1 and class 2, the rider really, unless they put their own speedometer on it, they don't.
Speedometers on class 1s and 2s.
And just to
Only
clarify,
in class 3 is required.
Okay.
and to clarify, when you said they are requiring that they're 16 years old, you mean the state? Okay, so make sure we're clear on
But
that.
that's only class 3.
3.
Yeah.
So it's like it's really hard to tell until you get up close to looking at what it is they actually have. Scooters, e-scooters, low-speed micro-mobility devices. By definition with the state, these weigh less than 100 pounds. They have handlebars. It's propelled by an electric motor or human power, and has an attainable speed of a level of surface of not more than 20 miles an hour when propelled with its electric motor. When I put this in and asked for, what the scooter looked like, this is what they're showing me. When I search the internet. A low-speed micro-mobility device can be operated on public streets, highways, sidewalks, and shared use paths. They may be operated on a portion of roadway set aside for exclusive use of bikes. But if you were to rent one, like you can do down in Toledo, you cannot rent one if you're younger than 60 years of age. But there is no restriction for privately owned scooters. And when there's an e-scooter not refused transport, some of these can take up to 70 miles an hour. We got introduced to this last summer with an individual that lived out west that worked on the east side of town and thought it was a great idea. He was probably doing 45 miles an hour down Monroe Street, and he was splitting the lanes of traffic. Kind of like they do in LA, where they just, when it's bumper to bumper, they go down the stopped him and ended up citing him for a red light and stop sign violation. So, they had to talk with his parents too.
But if he were doing 45 and following traffic, would he have been breaking the law?
Especially when it's in 25-mile-an-hour zone.
Oh, okay, so that, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Let's say it's 45.
But
He's going.
But they
That's my
can't-
point, like, those can legally operate on the street without a license.
Well,
Per
look at
state.
what your definition is, because a penal speed level of a surface not more than 20 miles an hour. They're going 70 miles an hour. And again, you get up there and until you look at it and you can get like manufacturer off of it and do some research, or the person tells you, and most of the kids will be like, we go 70 miles an hour. He was right, you looked it up on the internet and it was classified. But that's what I'm saying, we've started saying this is a low speed micromobility device. What about all these that aren't? What are we doing with that? The state hasn't classified them. Do we want these on the roadways? Do we want them on our trails? So yeah, so that's something to keep in mind too. Just like you'll hear a lot of people say, well, my kid's got an e-bike. What's an e-bike? Is it a scooter? Is it a motor scooter? Is it electric dirt bike? We're seeing a lot of confusion parents getting their kids an e-bike when it's actually an electric dirt bike. And it has no pedals. So electric personal assisted mobility device. This is a state law that started out, I think this is meant to replace the electric wheelchair. If I know this correctly, but it's a self-balancing two non-connected wheel device, more like a Segway or a hoverboard, is the way they defined it. So I think something got messed up when they did it. If under 18 years of age, you must wear a helmet with a chin strap fastened. If under 16 years of age, you must be in direct visual and audible supervision of another person, 18 years of age or older, and who is responsible for the immediate care of the person under 16 years of age. And no person by state law under the age of 14 shall operate an electric personal assistive mobility device.
Just for the record, Doug Hanum has now joined us.
One wheels electric unicycles, again, are these micro mobility, low speed transports, or are they toys? Do they belong in the streets? Do they belong on the sidewalks?
Chief, are you seeing any of these types of things in our community?
I've seen the one wheel.
I've seen them in other communities. Oh, you are at Olander, huh? Okay.
I have a one wheel.
Oh, of course you do.
It's fun.
Good.
I've ridden it to
I'm not
council
gonna
before.
test it, but I trust you.
So I did this little experiment out there, and I hope you do this for when a corner of parked vehicles are in a driveway, it's gonna reduce vision on your sidewalk. So what we did is we went out to Erie and Little, because it had the longest sidewalk in the city that was uninterrupted by a driveway or a cross street or anything. So they went out there to officers, safety, training vehicles. So that's what you see when you're stopping stop bar at that intersection. So you actually have to move forward onto the crosswalk to get a clear visual of the roadway to be able to pull out safely. So what we did is I had him travel at me on the sidewalk. That's 5? Yeah, I'm even questioning, is that 5? Because he seems slow. Then I had him do it again at 10. I was getting nervous with him. And then I said, okay, go fast and try to get it going as fast as you can get it going. Push it to see if you can get it above. And he was able to get it to 24 miles. Keep in mind the
anecdotally, chief, that was the scenario I had 2 weeks ago myself when I was on foot, walking down Little Road toward Erie, and I didn't look that way. And they went by me by inches. And it was a blur.
Just for clarification. Are class threes supposed to be on the sidewalk, or should that be on the road, or should it be in the bike lane?
That's what a lot of the question is. It's not supposed to be, it can be on bike lane, it's attached to the roadway. So a lot of your shared use paths are not supposed to be on unless the local governments want them on there. Well, but again, you go back to what do those bikes look like? How does an officer going down the street gonna notice if that electric bike is a 1, 2, or 3?
But any 1, 2, or 3, just like a regular pedal bike, can legally operate in the road, right? Okay.
Follow the law.
There's a lot of this, it's confusing, sorry, I know, it's a lot to unpack.
Everyone's starting to think, what is it that we want for our community? Our stuff is what we have fine, or do we need to adjust it? These are the ordinances that I pulled out to talk a little bit about that would delve into this. We have bicycle riding upon sidewalks, designation of usable paths for bicycles, paths exclusively for bicycles, impounding, electric bicycles. I did add in an additional parental responsibility, simply because a lot of the sample policies that I gave you, you're seeing a lot of that being put into, where they're requiring parents to now be responsible, because if you find the child with it, you take the child to take the bike back home, and you turn around and find the child with it, you're starting to go after the parents. The most famous case right now is in California, where it was actually an e-dirt bike, and the child was getting back home with the bike. The mother was told, the kid got hold of it again, went out, and this time he struck and killed the pedestrian. They're actually charging her with manslaughter or something,
Involuntary manslaughter.
for allowing him access to that vehicle. Toy vehicles on streets, we actually have an ordinance for that, whether anyone's familiar with it. Electric personal assistive mobility devices and low speed cycle mobility devices. Like I said, a lot of these mirror what's in state code. There are a few there that have, like this one, bicycle riding on sidewalks. No person shall ride a bicycle on a sidewalk within a business district unless it's been designated pursuant to section 37311 as a usable path for bicycles. The only sidewalks that I know of are east of the North Street and I'll cover that in a second. The other part of this code is no person 12 or more years of age shall ride a bicycle on any sidewalk in any district unless such a sidewalk has been designated pursuant to section 37311. So, question is, do we want to allow e-bikes on sidewalks?
So Chief, let me ask you a question about that. I saw, obviously this gets into the discretion question. So mom and dad on bicycles, 2 small children, pedaling like crazy right down Monroe Street, headed east on Monroe Street, on the sidewalk. Little kids, the 14-inch wheels, they're on the sidewalk along with Johnny and Susie, these 2 little children. Is that permissible or not permissible according to the designation and the codified ordinances?
The kids would be permissible, but if something were to happen and the parents were to get a vehicle backing out of the driveway or something like that, there could be issues because it's against the ordinance currently we have. Even though to you and I, it makes sense that I'm not gonna have my kids on a sidewalk along down here, the way it's actually written, if it were to go before the court, in the case where there's that's why I'm pointing out kind of some of these discrepancies that we need to look at and really look at. The designated usable bike path for bicycles right now is currently Monroe Street. If you go out to Erie Street at the Y intersection to the easternmost municipal boundary, all the way out to Bicycle Road. And Alexis Road from where it begins at US 23 again to the easternmost boundary out towards Whiteford Road. Those are the only designated business areas with bike paths. And currently it says that the chief of police by and with consent of council designates these paths. Still it should probably be changed to the service director instead of chief of police, but that was something at the time the chief was also a safety director, so that's probably how it would be.
And so for this one, that means that that's the sidewalk
That's
from
the sidewalks
Monroe and on
for-
Alexis are
for
the paths.
anyone to be on. So looking at it, instead of business districts, so when there's business, what's a business? Road is long, it's near the state code, this is exactly what, 50% of the business frontage and within intersections and all this stuff, so we had Terry work his genius for us in following the state language of a definition of a business district. Everything in purple is our business district. So, Alexis and Monroe is on the right picture, and the left side of the screen shows everything in purple that would be classified as a business district that is west of Now, some of those, if you get down around Sylvania Avenue, they have designated bike trails alongside the roadways. But that's just more food for thought.
Chief, do you know, or perhaps service director, perhaps Joe would know, if those purple areas, do they have signage that is designating them as a business district, so your general public would know that they?
They do not. That was my question too. Yep. Correct.
So just some kind of questions to throw out to you. Do we want to allow bicycles and e-bicycles on sidewalks? Do we only want to allow bicycles and no e-bikes? Do we want to put a speed limit if they're on the sidewalk? And if we do, what speed do we give them? Do we want age restrictions for sidewalk usage? Do we want to define specific areas as no usage of bicycles, e-bikes, toys, etc.? And where do we want to do that? Some places are doing their downtown areas, and they're putting in all these pedestrian friendly areas. There's one in Indiana and Noblesville, Indiana. I've actually been there. It's a pretty robust downtown arts community. And they actually just changed theirs, and they have what's called a designated dismount zone. And it's this, what they call it. It basically is the outer perimeter of their downtown. And if you're on a micro-mobility device, bicycle or e-bike, you're required to get off and walk it through that area so there's no pedestrian traffic. So those are some options that places are doing. Electric bicycles. This is what you were asking, Patrick. No person shall operate a Class 3 electric bicycle on a path set aside for exclusive use of bicycles or shared use path, unless that path is within, adjacent to a highway or a municipality by resolution, ordinance, or rule authorizing it. So right now, if we're following the state law, a Class 3 is not allowed on our river trail. It would be something that the city would have to, if they wanted to change it, you would have to write that into your ordinance to allow it.
Chief, as you are marching through these, which is very helpful information, at some point along here, do you talk about helmets and what the requirements, if any, there are, and if it's something that we should be considering?
That is something council can consider. It is in some of the state ordinances. Some of them are starting to say that if you're operating one of these under the age of 18, they're requiring helmets to be worn. And I think Harrisburg is actually looking at that too, and theirs is making a requirement under the age of
right now, we don't have a requirement for a helmet.
Only thing that we require a helmet is class 3 bike, and that's what the state requires. Well, we look at this, we have River Trail. They currently put this provision on there unless you decide different. But when we're talking about River Trail, we put a speed limit on it. And we just, the closure of a bridge, we just stick the signs up saying no motor vehicles allowed. Like 2 days after the bridge closed. Down there, so. We do have signage for that, but do we need to put signage up saying what is allowed, what isn't allowed? Monroe City up in Michigan has some really nice signs with the wayfinding. Miss Ryan sent it to me, and it's a very nice, trail marking sign, and they did share it with Stranger, and I think maybe people in.
Oh, you got it.
I got it, yeah.
We put it in the signage allowed, so a lot of it's dealing with what do we do to notify people. The one thing I do know about Perrysburg is they are putting there, you have to register your class 1 and 2 bicycles with the city. I know in the works it's being developed, I'm not sure if that's something that we wanna look into. I see a lot of problems with that, if we want to bring people into our community to enjoy our parks and enjoy our trails. What do you do as a person that, I have a friend in Perrysburg, and I took my bike over to go ride, and now you're gonna tell me you're gonna stop me because I'm on your trail with no stickers and I don't stick here? So, you have to think these things through before you make a rash decision or maybe short of advice. Parental responsibility. I did this language, no parent, any child, or guardian, or any board shall authorize or knowingly permit any such child or board to violate any of the provisions of this chapter. Parma, Twinsburg, Ohio, and the city of Bay Village, Ohio, all are putting or have put this language into their ordinances. Impounding. We actually have a section in, my goodness, yeah, I explicitly told my officers we're not impounding anything right now because this language is, I don't feel it's proper, I don't feel it's respectful to our citizens. Our current language has no time period defined for the impoundment. Some of the other ordinances have impoundment up to 30 days, or it gives guidelines. If a minor is operating the item that you impound, it can only be released to a parent or guardian. It allows for, our current one allows for a charge of $1. Disposal procedure for unclaimed is kind of messy and says it's to go to auction, and it has a whole part that's outdated. So it needs to be revised. So proposal would be that if we're gonna do impounding, then we define it by a link by the offense. If the police are unable to transport, the bike has to be towed. The tow fee has to be paid before the release. Some of these bikes are not going to fit our police cars. And they're also, in fact, one that was involved in the incident at Homelander last year actually had to be towed on a tow truck because it was too big and too heavy for us. We charge storage fees when storing these bikes. And then what would our procedures be if we have unclaimed bikes? If they just don't come back and get them? Currently, with bikes that we find, we hold them for 30 days, and then they're donated to the State Family Services to give back to the child or community in need. I don't think we want to do that with e-bikes this week, so we have to decide what we're going to do with those.
Chief, and maybe this will come up later, so you can tell me that. But you know, we see some of these vehicles that have more than 2 wheels, 4 wheels or something like that. And we don't really address that here. Is it addressed at some point here?
There's another ordinance in the city that deals with all-purpose vehicles.
All-purpose, that's the word.
All-terrain
Yeah.
vehicles, and there is some language in there dealing with it. But again, it's something we can look at and look at everything.
But Chief, right now, we don't have anything that defines that scooter that can go 70 miles an hour or anything that goes above that 20-mile-an-hour limit.
Once it passes 20 miles an hour, it's no longer a low speed micromobility device.
And so then it's just, okay.
That's the question. Do you have an ordinance that says if it's in excess, if it travels in excess of this, it's not allowed on our city streets? I think where you're gonna see a lot of this go in a few years, with most states as it's processing through, not just Ohio, they're starting to set strict age limits. They're starting to set strict limits where you have to have a driver's license to operate some of these. They're calling these e-moto scooters actually motorcycles, which means you now have to have an endorsement, it has to be plated, it has to be insured. It's just right now, the way state laws are written, a lot of things are based on cubic centimeters of displacement, because of gas powered engines, and they're electric. What do we do? That's kind of the game our officers are playing, is what is it? We know what it isn't, but not what it is. So we do have an ordinance for toy vehicles on the streets. This one kind of encompasses our roller skates, riding in or riding into a sled, toy vehicles, skateboard, or similar device going upon any roadway, except when you're crossing a sidewalk. And it has this really cool statement in here that says, except on streets set aside for play streets. There is no
Such thing as play street.
or in city ordinances that defines what a play street is.
Oh.
So again, that's why I threw this in here to look at it, because is this something we need, or is it something that we modify for our community? There is some exemptions put in here. They really had a really nice one that when they redid their code will not apply for the mobility assistance devices required by individuals with disabilities and operation used by the city, state, village, police, or other emergency service providers. So that exempts someone that's actually using like a Segway because they have limited mobility and use them. So where I was looking at another person saying, yeah, you have to, they say, well, I need this for my mobility issues, I can't walk to find they exempt them because they want them to experience the trails and other things around their city. So that's the end of the slide.
Chief, if I can ask, you mentioned something about like segways, but what about like the, what do you call those at the grocery store? You know, my father-in-law had one, just the actual scooter that goes 10, 15 miles an hour, just,
The funny thing is when you plug in an adult scooter, that's the picture of kids.
yeah. And do they fall into any of these parameters either? Loose, okay, yeah, cause obviously,
I think that's where the state had it, but the motorized wheelchairs, but your motorized wheelchairs can't go above 8 miles an hour. So a lot of people are on scooters now for their little carts, and I think those are still set for like 8 to 10 miles an hour. They're not.
yeah, they don't go fast.
Although
Trust
some
me.
of them might want to keep them up a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I will tell you, last year, Olander had experienced a problem last year with now on a dirt bike. As I briefly mentioned before, and what it was he was in the back section of the he was back there, he was off-roading it, and actually struck a mother walking with her child on the baby carriage, the stroller that she was pushing, ejected the infant with, she went to the hospital with critical injuries, the little boy had some substantial bruising and stuff that miraculously both of them came out. But yeah, he ran down. I've had multiple calls from State Yard, from complaints out there. try to get these, I send emails as they're coming in, so you're aware of what's being pointed out to us.
Chief, I know that you're somewhat aware, I'm certainly far more knowledgeable than I am about HB number 948. Is that any updates on what the timeline for the state is and what they're looking at and anything that people are anticipating?
So I'm not expecting this to progress very fast, so I'm saying a year, 2 years probably, because one thing that it does in there is it requires the state to then go, they have 30 days after it's passed, to then go get their committee together and have 60 days to figure out what these things are and how to classify them. So even when the bill passes, the bill doesn't have answers for it, it has timeline then set to get the answers.
And then a follow-up to something Patrick asked, and perhaps I just didn't understand the response, but he was speaking about the scooter going down like Monroe Street, running between the cars, going 48, and you said the speed limit's 25. So he would be out of the speed limit and that's not legal. But would a scooter within the guidelines of the speed limit riding down the middle of Monroe Street with traffic be permissible under the way our language is current? Not if it's going like this.
If you're following the speed limit, if you're following traffic, you're following the traffic laws, what we're seeing though is a lot of these are not.
But excuse me, what I'm saying though, let's say it's riding in a lane, driving in a lane just like a car, it can do that. It could drive in the middle of a lane as though it's a car.
But you have to be following the rules of the road.
Okay.
And we have people on these that are understanding what the rules of the road are.
And in a case like that too, following the rules of the road, being just, if it's going that speed, does it have to have proper lighting on it? Could they get by with just doing hand signals and turning left, right?
They
Or
have, some of the ones that go 70 actually have headlights, lights. If you're riding after dark, or anything, other than your bikes have headlights on, you're gonna have to have those equipped on the bikes. And we actually had, a group that we stopped the other night after there was two lights that were legal, that were fine, they had headlights, they had taillights, they had reflectors. They were perfect. The other two that were with them were on black dirt bikes. They had no headlights, no reflectors, nothing inside the dark building. So that's what I was.
Other questions from council, well, from committee members, first of all.
Yeah, I guess the one thing that keeps coming to my mind is regardless of what direction we go in is just the enforceability standpoint of that and how you'll be able to keep up and, you know, are there enough resources and things of that nature?
We're trying our best to find them. One thing is they are tending to take off on us for that case. I know that's been part of the problem with charge systems. When I talked to Sager, they had a couple of them that were out on the ball diamonds. They've been out there and traffic them and saying, you can't be out here. They responded by running the engine station off the train and looking off the park. So if they have, I think earlier, it's like quite a few issues, they tried to talk to them and they pulled out the side gates into the roadways. Now, I'm not saying every person on those is acting like that, because it's not. But again, it's the few bad apples that are gonna ruin it forever. Just like, I was saying, you saw the news this weekend, we lost two e-scooter riders in the area. One was up in Lenawee County. 17-year-old ran a stop sign in front of a semi. And when it's Toledo, was on one of the rented scooters from Toledo, and he ran a red light and still had the car. So it's out there, they're moving fast. A lot of it is education for the riders, and we also abide by the laws. Stop signs are there for everyone, just like a pedestrian that's walking, you're gonna stop. Well, we should stop and look both ways so I can go where I want, and some of these are being operated by people that do not have driver's licenses, they never had driver's ed, they never had training to know what the rules of the road are.
So there's a critical question for how do you educate, because you have to get them to listen, and so I think that'll be an interesting thought process. I mean, at the point of sale,
We're
and
going to do some outreach now to those that we see, and talk to them, and explain. And we're also, I have talked with Prevention Alliance to see if
they could do something.
to formulate some sort of
It's great.
bike safety or road mobility safety, so that we could actually bring our children in and talk to them and explain to them what's expected when you have this responsibility and you're operating this equipment.
Are there, I know we've got two wonderful bike shops in the city of Sylvania. Maybe one of them's township, right at the border there. Do they sell these kinds of bikes?
Yeah.
So perhaps even something at point of sale where we at least begin to educate and.
And some of that is being covered with the state law too, is that they're supposed to be putting these out and videos out and stuff like that, but anything that we can do to move ours along faster is what I'm hoping for.
Lindsay or Brian, any questions from you?
Well, I think I wanna add the perspective of that, and there's already been a lot of great questions asked, so this is the one that's in my mind, is we already can't easily tell the difference between class 1 to class 3 bikes, and same with those scooters. And there's also good precedent saying that these things could continue to get faster or to take other shapes, considering we're looking at single wheeled and double wheeled of all sorts of sizes and shapes.
Right.
So in my mind, I'm thinking less about specific types of vehicles and more about I mean, you already used a term rules of the road, and I'm wondering if it might become more of a rules of the sidewalk too, or some sort of way in which it's not dependent on the vehicle itself. I mean, we want everyone to be able to feel safe when they're walking, but we also want people to be able to get around. I mean, I'm a big fan of alternative modes of transportation, right? And
Right.
I mean, I have a little Vespa, right, that I love to ride around, and I have an e-bike. And it does make being in the city more enjoyable, but yeah, I think there's some combination between education and less focus, I think, maybe on the precise things and more of what do we look at of these different environments, of what would be the appropriate balance between the two. But it doesn't seem like it's something that's going to stop here, I think is the summary of that.
You know, I don't have the answers, but if there are locations where they're not allowed, and I don't know that there are, but we would have to have appropriate signage, because we can't hold people accountable to something that they're not aware of at the moment.
Right.
So I think that'll be an important element to consider.
I mean, there's been times I've ridden the sidewalk on Monroe Street just because it's been so uncomfortable to be on the street. And I was glad when I was reading through all this, oh, Monroe Street, it is okay to do that. But there was hey, I might be breaking the law right now, but it's what feels safe and
Well,
there's
and
no
I
one in the
think,
way.
and I'm not
Signage.
100% sure on this, in '05, that might have been, part of this was getting it, why that language was all updated in there had something to do with sidewalks and making them usable for bicycles. Yeah, for designating the bike paths.
Yeah, that could be, but that was 20 years ago.
Yeah, I know.
So I don't under.
For some reason, my.
The reason. Yeah, but I think you're right.
At one time, I thought it was only one side of Monroe Street, one side of the lots were approved by, and I think they changed both sides.
Gotcha.
Because it was kind of confusing for the officers.
Right. Which side of the street?
Oh, you're okay to ride your bike in this sidewalk, but if you go across the street, you can't ride on this sidewalk. I think that might have
But
been something to do.
The reason. Yeah, that
But
very
that's
well
only
could be.
changed.
It does seem that 20 miles an hour, it seems to be a sort of generally accepted threshold for some things. However, 20 miles an hour on a sidewalk still seems pretty fast.
Pretty fast when you come Um, a lot of the cities that you'll see examples from are saying, on trails and, sidewalks. You can't exceed 5,000.
I think that 20 miles an hour, I said the same thing, is that it feels like that's the standard, but, you know, 20 miles an hour is fast.
It's fast.
For the micromobility, for your low speeds, for your e-bikes, at 750 watt or less, 20 miles an hour or less. When you look at all of them, that seems to be that threshold that the state was going for when they set a lot of these. But the manufacturers aren't saying what the threshold is. They're expanding out
Faster.
it's not unusual. We've had one e-bike accident in which it was not a class 3. It was what they're starting to push out now a class 4, which is everything in excess of class 3, because this young man was like, proud, my bike goes 50 miles an hour. And he, as he was being picked up by EMS, taken to the hospital for substantial head injuries because he had no helmet on. The other one was no, he was 15. The other one was an 18-year-old here on Main Street. He was on a sit-down e-scooter that had no pedals. For whatever reason, I think he was pretty much kind of helping him divide as he was on the sidewalk. And he decided in front of Sodders, because northbound traffic was stopped, and he wanted to go across the street, he did kind of throttle up and shoot across the street. And what he didn't realize is they were stopped because traffic was turning left to go southbound on Main Street. And he drove right into the path of a grandmother with her 2 granddaughters in the car when they hit him, and he's substantially messed up. He again had no helmet. He also had no shirt. He had shorts on. And serious case of road rash, and his lower leg that came in contact with the bumper was crushed. So I mean, we're seeing this. We're seeing a lot of substantial injuries out of these. And if you look, most of your children's hospitals are putting out warnings saying, hey, this is getting dangerous. Where we used to see kids falling off and breaking their arms on these bikes, and they used to have a concussion and road rash. We've had those riding our bikes. Because of the speeds and the velocities these things are traveling, they're now seeing fractured skulls, they're seeing brain bleeds, they're seeing critical injuries that are
So, again, we're hoping to keep this meeting to 6:30. I'd like to make sure all council members have a chance to make comment, first committee members, then others, and then we do have some guests here. So, Brian, is there anything else that you'd like to bring up?
I just want to add to Lindsay's comments that we had our study for the downtown area, and walkability was a big factor in what people want for the community. And I think safety on the sidewalks is paramount for that.
All right, other council members, anything critical to the discussion that you'd like to have us consider?
The only thing I would add, some that you had said about how it's only gonna get more, not necessarily worse, but more. I would add that these kids don't want these scooters if they don't go 20 miles an hour, right? I mean, my son, he got one that only went 12, and he was like, put it back in the box, you know, like he doesn't want it, you know, so they're getting it because their friends have it, and their friends have it, and literally they're trying to keep up with the Joneses, but in this case, they're literally trying to keep up with them, you know, from a speed standpoint. So it is something that's not going to go away. And I'd even asked my son if, I said, is there something on TikTok or some challenge or something going on? Because these have been around for a few years, and I feel like the last 6 months, it's been off the hook as far as the nonsense that's been going on. But he said, no, but I'm like, yeah.
So they're priced more now for everyone to get. Where before, they were out of reach. You're talking $100.
Yeah, now it's 200, you get one for $200 on Amazon. Yeah, okay. No, and I'm with you as far as, it has to be something common sense, with, you can check the speed gun or something that's very simple. Because you can't stop everybody, but yeah. And you wouldn't want to, because at the end of the day, you just want people to be safe, you don't care. You know, I guess my only note I put here is if, kind of like, if it sounds like a duck and walks and talks like a duck, if it's a class 3 and it acts like a class 2 because you're driving it safely, we don't care if it's a class 3. We just want you to act safely, you know?
Right, and it's not just about the person who is the operator of the vehicle, but it's about the safety of the people around that individual, so it's a little broader.
Yeah.
Okay, Mayor, did you have something you wanted to say?
I know there are other members of council who haven't had a chance to speak
Absolutely.
yet, so I would.
Okay, other members of council?
So, I needed to say.
Okay,
So I did have a couple comments, and since council had a chance to speak briefly. There are some of the stuff in the current codified ordinances, there are holes in it. We have a structural question of, do we wait for the legislature to act? Or do we wanna engage in this process and try to establish our own structure? Maybe following other communities, maybe strike our own completely our own pathway. The biggest challenge is, and I agree with comments of council members, how do we educate the general public and get it to the people who are actually utilizing these things? And I made this comment, I don't remember who it was, but I have a car that will go, or all our cars will go way more than the speed limit in the city of Sylvania, anywhere in the city of Sylvania, every single one of our vehicles. But if you drive them safely at the speed limit or lower, the fact that it will go X miles an hour shouldn't make any difference, as long as you're driving it appropriately for the location that you're in. The other question is, as I read the revised code, and some of the codified ordinances, there seems to be a disconnect between motorized electric bicycles and what that requires, and then this, you can't rent an e-bike if you're 16 or under, and if you're on a moped and it's a internal combustion engine, you gotta be 14 with some sort of so there seems like there's just a dichotomy or a disconnect between all of these different pieces, and this market is moving very fast. So how does city council, how does the administration think it's best for the city of Sylvania to handle it?
thank you, and I have a thought to that, but I thought it might be nice to have our guests share their comments first. Is there anyone in the audience that had something they'd like to share this evening?
I'm just here for information. We live actually in the township.
You know what, can you step up to the podium and share your name and your address? I should have started with that.
It's okay. Karma Vince. I actually live in the township. The path from Olander goes right behind my house. We see bikes speeding with, as my husband stated, older folks walking. And I've got a picture that a friend sent me of a four-wheel. I don't know if it was like an elaborated golf cart, but something going there. And it's just a concern to a lot of us in our development. So I was curious what you were doing in the city and, you know, what we can do along with Olander to protect people on that path before somebody gets seriously hurt.
Thank you for those comments, Mrs. Vince. As you can hear, we're all trying to find that path forward, so we're glad you're here. Our friends from Olander.
Erica Burry, Outdoor Sylvania Community Parks. So this is a issue that we've had for many years, and it has picked up, and I think you're exactly right. The reason why is because the cost has gone down. E-bikes have been around for a while, and when we put in the trail at Olander Park, we made sure to make it very clear what the speed limit was, understanding that we would have people coming through, even on regular bicycles, who could go 20 miles an hour, like Dan here. So the issue for us is speed first of all, because we're sharing those paths with not just other cyclists, but also walkers and people in strollers and runners. But also, you know, Sylvan Prairie Park where, and that's the township, so that doesn't necessarily apply to you guys, but those spaces where there's not as much oversight, people are getting really creative about how they're using trails and sidewalks. So I appreciate that you guys are trying to solve this problem. In 2022, Metro Parks Toledo, who operates the University Parks Trail, set their guidelines at 100 pounds. Your your bike could not be more than 100 pounds. So that's hard for an officer to gauge. But if you can't get it in your truck by yourself, it's over 100 pounds, right? Yeah, so it depends on how strong you are. It's obviously very strong. So those are some other guidelines. I know parks have been struggling with this for many years, so I'm also very happy to share any information that we can get from that end of things. But thank you all for working on this, and we look forward to see how that goes forward, and we will mirror your guidance on our own end, just because I think having that consistency is really important across the board.
Thank you. I see both of you'd like to make comments, so please feel free. I need your name and your address.
Dan Marsalek. I'm with Outdoor Sylvania Community Parks. Along with Erica, I also serve on the Lake Erie West Regional Council Active Transportation Advisory Committee. Couple things, the 20 miles an hour that you alluded to probably references the first and second generation e-bikes which came out, which had motors that were 350 or 500 watts. They could only hit 20 miles an hour. With the technological advances, obviously, things are increasing in terms of the speed. But that's why that 20 mile an hour cutoffs kind of seem to be the regulation, is because that's what the early generations were limited to. Couple things that haven't been discussed though. You could have something that has a sticker that says you're a class 1 bike, but there's a lot of illegal mods out there right now, and kids are playing around. Just like you can soup up your computer or soup up your car, kids are souping up their scooters and their e-bikes. So that's something that probably needs to be considered in your legislation. For education, not everyone is buying their e-bikes from a local retailer. We'd like that to be the case, but Amazon and Alibaba and Temu are still dominant players, and you can get stuff really, really cheap. And so a better way might be to try and target the parents, because a lot of these users are kids who simply don't know better. Enforcement, obviously going to be an issue going forward. For the parks, we have a particular problem because we don't have rangers at Outdoor Sylvania. So we don't have any teeth unless the police come in and can help us with that. And we've had a number of incidents. You alluded to the crash, but more recently, people going through the summer market on e-bikes, which is very crowded with foot traffic, even though it's a wide 2-lane parkway, but still causing problems there. And then youths who are doing tricks on them, wheelies and trying to jump the speed bumps and stuff like that, where we try and talk to them and they just kind of laugh, you know, you're not my dad type deal. So trying to find a way to make it educational, but also put a little bit of teeth into it might not be a bad idea. Helmets, I think you have a chance as a city to be proactive here and kind of guide everyone else. Cyclists, you know, are recommended to wear helmets. I don't see why those wearing e-bikes shouldn't also have the same requirements. So while it's currently required on class 3, you have the ability to make that anyone on an e-bike or a scooter. And that's certainly going to go a long way towards keeping people from hurting themselves through their own sheer stupidity. Lastly, I want to talk about Bike Month. Lake Erie West does coordinate Bike Month every May, and that would be a great time to partner with them and help go through the social media channels for education. So I think that's, if you're looking for a way to get information out, Social media is definitely the way to do that. You can print flyers, you can put billboards up, but I think everyone nowadays is on their phone, and if you can find a way to them through their phone, that's probably gonna be most effective. So those are my thoughts on that, and thanks for listening.
Thank you, Dan, very helpful. And our other gentleman here, please step up and give us your name and your address and your thoughts.
Sorry I missed the meeting, but I forgot. My name is Doug Ettinger. I have just one question. I do a certain amount of walking around town, and I've always assumed that any pedestrian on a city sidewalk automatically has the right of way over anybody operating any kind of motorized conveyance, with the exception of, I suppose, motorized wheelchairs. Is that correct?
Pedestrians have the right of way, and anyone that's on a bicycle has to yield to a pedestrian and also has to give an signal or vocalize that they're gonna be passed.
Okay. I think that's all I care about.
Okay, very good, thank you. So I thank everyone for their comments. A couple of thoughts. One, I think it might be helpful, Chief, if you'd be willing to share your PowerPoint with us. You had some good questions in there for us to think about. I think now that the safety committee and other members of council have had an opportunity to listen to your thoughts, it might be helpful to go back and review some of this information, and in particular, look at what some of the other communities that you've included here have done, and then forward any questions and comments to you so that you can kind of see what comes at you consistently. And then from there, maybe we can begin to narrow down where council is. And in fact, I would ask that council send that information. Joe, would you want it to go to you as well?
Sure.
And to the chief, and I'd like to get a copy of it as well. And I think we need to put a timeline on that. I don't think it's realistic to think that we're gonna get this all organized and ready for discussion by our next meeting next week, I think that is. So perhaps we could give a 2-week window. Now, we know everybody's gonna do what we do. The day before, they're gonna sit down and say, oh my gosh, I gotta get this done. But I'd encourage you, this is something that will require a little thought, but to kind of review this and send your comments, questions, thoughts, and perhaps your preferences and what you'd like to see in legislation to Joe, the chief, and myself. Is that acceptable to the safety committee members? And if you have a better suggestion, I'm 100% open.
I am out of town for about 10 days. So, but I will do some questions up front and then when I get back as well.
Okay, that's great. And we can extend that for a little longer if we need to. Do we need to go to 3 weeks?
Well, 2 weeks we have council, so I don't think there's gonna be anything prepped and ready
No,
for that meeting, certainly.
right.
So, and then after that, there's another entire
Break.
month between
Mhm.
that meeting and then the August meeting. So you basically got 6 weeks before this thing would be ripe for potential consideration by members of council.
I would like to echo one thing the mayor said. I would prefer to wait until the Ohio legislature sorts this out as opposed to trying to do something on our own.
We'll document that, and I think we'll probably find some other council members who feel similarly. Please let us know that when you give your remarks, all right? So again,
I will not be giving any comments on this. I'm gonna let the Ohio legislature do their work as opposed to trying to piecemeal something for the city of Sylvania. So the lack of comment isn't because I don't have any ideas on this. I got a lot of ideas on this.
so today is July 6th. I'm gonna pull up my calendar so we can kind of have an agreement on what that date is. Lindsay, again, since you're gonna be gone, I feel okay based on this for us to look at that Monday, the 3rd. But then we'd wanna try and,
I would appreciate the extra week just to be able to have, I have a feeling I might end up having a coffee or a meeting just to talk through some ideas and I need that extra time. I return on the 20th,
Okay.
So I'll be back in time for our next council meeting, but that won't give much time to actually.
I guess the third week would be actually the 27th of
27th.
July. Is that gives you that week after you're back?
Great.
All right. So if safety committee, you are
That
with
works
that,
for me.
Marcus? Brian, you okay with
Yes.
that? All right, and certainly, I would invite other council members who have comments and have said it in this meeting to feel free to submit your thoughts as well. And I'd ask that people have that information submitted by Monday, the 27th at 5 p.m. Okay, any other business to come before this committee? Any other comments? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries and this meeting stands adjourned at 6:35. Thank you very much for being here and for your time and attention.